Okay, good morning. I am Doxy McCoy from the Mayor's Office of Communications. Welcome to Mayor Vincent C. Gray's biweekly press briefing. We have come to the Department of Employment Services for the Mayor to announce yet another effort to help District of Columbia residents find jobs. First, my announcements. Members of the media, please look in your folders for the information. Today, Mayor Gray issued a proclamation establishing March 2012 as Women's History Month in the District of Columbia. Through this proclamation, the Mayor recommits the resources of the district government to closing the gender gap and supporting the efforts of every woman and girl to reach her full potential. The D.C. Office on Women's Policy is sponsoring several events in celebration of Women's History Month. That includes an exhibit in the John A. Wilson Building. It's called Women in Washington's History. Tomorrow, March 8th, the Women's Office will host a screening and panel discussion of the acclaimed documentary Misrepresentation in partnership with Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority. The film examines the implications of negative images of women and girls in the media, politics, and music. For more information on Women's History Month, go to women.dc.gov. Speaking of women making history, Mayor Gray congratulates Samara Cook Gaines, director of the D.C. Women's Business Center, for being recognized by the White House for her efforts to mentor budding entrepreneurs in the district. The White House is honoring Ms. Cook Gaines at a noontime ceremony today, along with 10 other local leaders around the country who are also being recognized as White House champions of change. The mayor applauds Ms. Cook Gaines for helping to create the new economy that he spoke about in his State of the District address, and for supporting the mayor's efforts to grow and diversify a D.C. economy that will be more accessible to all residents and will create good jobs in the future. Champions of Change is part of President Obama's Winning the Future initiative to recognize leaders in the community. Last announcement is that Mayor Gray today announced that the Office of Boards and Commissions is receiving applications for residents interested in being appointed to the city's newly created Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. Residents interested in serving on the Ethics Board should review the qualifications and get an application from the Office of Boards and Commissions. Their website is obc.dc.gov. And of course, everyone in the public can call 311 and get the phone number for that office. I want to remind all here to please silence your cell phones. I ask each speaker who comes to the podium, of course all of our speakers are out with the mayor. At any rate, we want them to identify themselves first. After the mayor's job announcement, he and the speakers will take questions on the new jobs programs first. Then the mayor will take questions on all topics from reporters. Questions should only come from the press. If there's a member of the public here who has a question for the mayor, you may ask him afterwards, or a staff member may be able to answer your question. The mayor's time will be limited on reporters after the press briefing because he has to get to another event at 11:30, so we please ask for your cooperation so that he can get to his next event. Now, we should have Mayor Gray coming in shortly. Thank you.
Good morning. We have come to the Department of Employment Services today to announce a new effort to continue to get District of Columbia residents back to work through on-the-job training. I think most people know that we really have worked hard to reform our workforce development system here in the District of Columbia. One of those efforts, of course, was the appointment of a new Workforce Investment Council, working with the Council of the District of Columbia, establishing a workforce intermediary, working, frankly, to reform the Department of Employment Services under the leadership of our director, Lisa Mallory, and really focusing hard on getting people back to work. When we came into office, the unemployment level was 11.2%. And It came down in November to 10.6%, down to 10.4% the following month. And next week, we'll have some information on where we are. We're hopeful that it will continue to go in a positive direction, and we'll be able to announce that information next week. Again, I'm delighted to be here with our Director of the Department of Employment Services, Lisa Mallory. And this is a new feature of our One City, One Hire program. Also, I'm delighted to welcome Councilmember Michael Brown, who has worked very closely with us on a number of these issues, and he's joined us today for this announcement, and we'll look forward to hearing from him as well. And there are also a number of representatives from the business community who have stepped up and who are working with us in this effort, and you will hear from them as well. I think many of you will remember, well, hopefully you'll remember, in my State of the District address that I talked about my plan for building one city and focusing on three priorities: creating a new economy for the District of Columbia that is more diverse and far less reliant on the federal government, ensuring that the district residents are prepared for the jobs of the new economy, and improving the quality of life for all. As a matter of fact, last night I went to an event involving the tech community, and I've been in a number of sessions with them. There must have been 500 people who were there last night working to help people understand how to do a startup in the technology arena. They had a movie that had been produced in part by Microsoft, and it really was not only uplifting but incredibly informative about how technology startups are moving forward across the nation, some of the challenges associated with that, and some of the people who are really working hard to expand the technology field. So, again, we will continue to focus on that. We're also focusing on ensuring the district residents are as prepared as they possibly can be for the new jobs that are evolving from the new economy. As our economy grows and changes, we have to work continually to close the skills gap, helping residents to get up to speed with learning and training that makes them job ready for the opportunities of the future. Since we launched One City, One Hire in September, we have now 513 employers, firms that are working with us, which is an extraordinary number at this stage, all types of businesses involved, and we now have placed around 2,100 people into jobs, which we know, while it's not the single factor, certainly has made a contribution to bringing down some of the employment numbers that I talked about earlier. The new on-the-job training program that I'm announcing today will enable the District of Columbia to help even more D.C. residents find permanent employment. Among other reasons, is needed because the federal OJT program that was launched in June of 2010 is set to expire in June of this year. Our OJT program will provide employers with a number of benefits. Employers make all of the hiring decisions pertaining to trainees. Employers tailor all of the training to their business needs. Length of training is negotiable. There's minimal paperwork for employers to have to complete, and there are no costs for OJT services provided by DOES, such as recruiting and screening. Employers must be in good standing with the District of Columbia, and I think the employment community knows what that means, and obviously intend to retain OJ participants for at least an additional 6 months after the training is completed. We will encourage all OJT employers to hire qualified trainees on an ongoing basis to teach residents new skills to help them remain employable in the city. Job training in the past, which we know in most instances, if not all, is well-meaning, too often prepared people for low-skill, low-growth industries, and then oftentimes at the end of the day, they were not able to transition into permanent jobs thereafter, which is just a new source of frustration. This new OJT program will ensure trainees are employed in meaningful jobs after the training period is completed, because that is a requirement of the program. Again, you're going to hear later in the press briefing this morning from a number of representatives of companies that have joined us. But please, before we do that, join me in welcoming the Director of the Department of Employment Services, who is going to tell you more of the details about this new OJT effort. Please join me in welcoming Director Lisa Mallory.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're delighted to have everyone here today, particularly our partners that have stepped up to join us in this new adventure. It's another resource that we have as part of One City, One Hire to ensure that we have the supports necessary in place so that we can partner the unemployed with many of our employers in the region. So I just want to give a little bit of context and a little more detail about the program that we're putting in place. It was, as the mayor mentioned, patterned after the federal program, and we were really appreciative of the U.S. Department of Labor and the grant that we have been working with over the past 2 years. This was a nationwide grant, which was called the On-the-Job Training Program. And while it took some time to get employers engaged and to understand it, it's really it has moved forward, and we're really delighted to have been successful in that endeavor. So as a result of the feedback that the mayor received at our Citizen Summit a couple of weeks ago, and the feedback was that more of our employers and the unemployed wanted more on-the-job training experiences, we decided to put in place a similar program that has much more flexibility for the employers and allows us to ensure that we are supportive of the employers and the employees in the training process while the individual gets acclimated with the organization, and then in also ensuring retention in the workplace. So DOES is again offering to our partners that sign up through, they can do that through onecityoneHire.org. They sign up, they let us know they're interested in the OJT program. We can do pre-screenings for them if there are some particular requirements that they have in place for the potential employees. DOES can put those in place at no charge. And then once the individual candidate is identified and hired, DOES is going to reimburse the employer for 6 months of employment for 90% of the employee's wages, provided that the employer keeps the individual for at least 6 months. And we, of course, hope that the employment will be will go way beyond the retention period. Reimbursements will be taking place monthly for the first 3 months to the employers, and then 3 months into the retention period, the full balance will be paid to the employers, to our partners. And if the employee is terminated or resigns, DOES will still reimburse the employers for the wages incurred during the term of employment. In addition to that, DOES will be conducting monthly site visits. We're putting in place job coaches that will be paired up with these individuals in the workplace because we are interested in ensuring that these individuals are successful in the workplace. That is what we are all about. So, and during the 6-month period, we know that our employees, who will be trainees, will begin to gain specialized training experience and skills that will allow them to be very successful and productive and work alongside successfully with experienced workers. We believe that by partnering with DOES, we can identify many motivated individuals who may not be in the systems, many of them are online systems that these employers here today currently use to do their recruitment. So we have been going throughout the city to engage these individuals that have traditionally been somewhat disconnected or were not in our system to ensure that we have a plentiful group of individuals that are ready, willing, and able, and certainly qualified to do some of this work. So let me just quickly mention some quick facts. Participants receive no less than the District of Columbia's minimum wage, and it's capped at $34 an hour. Training participants must be previously unemployed. The employers must be established businesses, as the mayor mentioned, and in good standing. The employer makes all of the hiring decisions. There is tailored training that DOES will also support as necessary. Employers save recruiting, screening, training costs. The length of training is negotiable. And we have put in place a quick approval process so that we can ensure that we can put this partnership in place as quickly as possible. The jobs must be permanent. The applicant cannot be related to the owner or a supervisor of the firm. The applicant cannot be hired by the former employer in the past. And the jobs solely based on commissions are not eligible, nor are jobs that involve contracting out these individuals. State and federal jobs are prohibited, and intermittent seasonal occupations occupations are not eligible, because we want these to be permanent opportunities for individuals. So I want to take a moment to thank some of the organizations that we have with us here today, and I'm going to call some of them up to come and join us, as well as, well, I will ask our chair, the chair of our committee, Michael Brown, to actually come up, Councilmember Michael Brown, to come and say a few words, and then we'll have the employers come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Well, good morning. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Gray for his wonderful leadership related to getting our D.C. residents hired as quickly as possible. Give Mayor Gray a hand for that. Also, the Director of Employment Services, Lisa Mallory, give her a wonderful hand for all the wonderful work she has been doing. We had a exhaustive oversight committee hearing with DOES the other day. I think it lasted somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 or 6 hours. I'm sure her staff thinks it was about 10 to 20 hours. But it was one of the things where I think the D.C. residents need to see two things. One, they need to see that the Department of Employment Services first had to fix all the issues from the past before they could really start implementing the vision of this administration. So as they are doing both, we still want to make sure that we're getting residents hired as quickly as possible. But before we do that, we have to get them trained. So these wonderful employers over here will hire our folks. Give the employers a wonderful hand for all their wonderful work that they're doing. The reason we have to make sure we have a partnership with the employers here in our city is we have to make sure we're giving them the best and the brightest folks that are ready to work, have all the particular certifications, everything they need, so there are no excuses for them not to get hired. That's one of the things we've been dealing with quite some time. So we'll continue to do everything we can, whether the unemployment rate is hovering around 9 or whether it's around 2. Either way, we need to continue to make sure D.C. residents are getting hired. In particular, when companies are using D.C. dollars to get their projects off the ground, you definitely have to hire D.C. residents. And that's when we revamped our first source law. Mayor Gray, Chairman Brown, and I rewrote that particular law. It's now the largest jobs bill in the city's history. I know it gave some of our employers a little heartburn in the first part of the drafting of that, but hopefully it'll be a win-win for everyone. So thank you very much for having me. Look forward to the rest of the program. Thank you.
All right, we have a number of folks with us up here today, and I'm going to start by asking Tom Graham, who is with PEPCO, of course, president of one of the, they have a complex organization, so I'm not going to try to get into it first, and then he'll be followed by Vince Keane, and then Brett McMahon, who's with Miller and Long. And Vince Keane, of course, is with Unity, and then we'll come back and introduce the other folks up here. Thank you, Tom.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Tom Graham. I'm the president of the PEPCO region. It is our pleasure to be here today to partner with the city on this important initiative. I'd like to applaud the mayor and also the leadership for DOES for this innovative idea to make the connection between D.C. residents and job opportunities. This is really an extension of a relationship that we've shared with the city for quite some time. Back in September of 2011, we signed on to One City, One Hire campaign. And since that time, we've been able to hire 8 D.C. residents into the company. We've also worked with DOES, and all of our job openings are posted on their board. In addition to that, we've conducted 4 workforce readiness seminars with DOES. As you know, over the last couple of years, we've been focused on a couple things. One's reliability, and another is implementing a smart grid here in the area. As a result of that, our spend is probably going to be close to $500 million. What does that mean? That means jobs. So we're trying to make the connection between our business needs and the needs of the city. So it's really our pleasure to be here, to be able to work with the city in this manner and really continue our partnership. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Vince Keane. I'm President and CEO of Unity Healthcare. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Brown, and Ms. Mallory, and all our guests, I want to congratulate the Mayor and indeed City Council on the efforts we are making to hire DC residents. Unemployment is a scourge. I speak to it from experience, not my own, thankfully, but from that of my son, who has been unemployed for a long time in another state, in one of the other 51 states, okay? And basically, in one of the other 50 states. This one is 51, right? And basically, what happens to long-term unemployment, as you know, is it's not only just maintaining your skills, but maintaining a proper attitude. We at Unity are committed to participating in this program as active players. We participate in the First Source Agreement, having several grants and contracts with the District of Columbia. We participate in the Mayor's Summer Youth Program, and we are happy to report that in 2011, through the hard work of my staff, we have hired 75 DC residents. We actually employ people from frontline staff all the way up to medical doctors. So we have a vast array of opportunities for people, professional and semi-professional. We also realize it's not just getting them into the system. It is supporting them, particularly if they have been hard to employ and maybe low-skilled and may even lack a lot of self-confidence. Our job is not just to hire them. We see our job as to support them, to onboard them, and to make them productive employees, both for us and for the city that we all love. Thank you very much.
Dead air here. My name is Brett McMahon. I'm president of Miller & Long DC. We're a concrete subcontractor located in Northwest. And I am thrilled to be here today. It is unfortunately often the case that we deal with too many sticks from the DC government and not enough carrots. And it's nice that to be here at something that's clearly been designed with the employer in mind, the decision maker in mind, and the person that's ultimately responsible for that person's employment opportunity from now and on into the future. The Miller & Long companies have hired well over 75,000 people in the 65 years that Miller & Long Company, Inc. in Bethesda has actually been in business. So we've provided lots and lots of opportunities for folks in this area from every walk of life, from every region around here, but lots and lots of DC residents. The original founders were DC residents. The owners of the other company are DC residents. And so it's a good day to actually see where we can actually sit down in partnership with the District of Columbia government, and we look forward to actually utilizing this program and putting more DC folks to work. Thank you very much.
We have several other people who joined us today, and let me introduce all of them now, and they'll just come up in the order in which I announced them. First of all, a gentleman that we worked with, I actually worked with him all the way back to my days at Covenant House, who runs an organization along with others, Gelberg Signs, which does an extraordinary job. And they actually were the people who designed and fabricated the sign that's out in front of the Wilson building that records continuously how much in federal taxes that we paid and exhorts people to support bringing self-determination to the District of Columbia. That's Luke Bromley. We also have Loretta Caldwell, who's worked with us in a number of ways. I've been with her over at DC Water, where she's working to try to help us to get DC residents employed in the various projects there. Bill Dean, who I guess works in concert with PEPCO, both of them working to light up the District of Columbia, right? Bill, of course, is the CEO of MC Dean. Larry Greenhill, who is the Vice President of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And then we have Janis Barnes, who's worked with us closely with 7-Eleven. We helped 7-Eleven actually staff up 2 of its new stores in the city. And I was actually here the day that the interviews were taking place. There were 38 positions, and we were able to identify 26 people that day who qualified for those positions. So again, that was a part of One City, One Hire, which we believe was a service to the employer, and we want to continue those kinds of partnerships. So Please join me in welcoming them, and they'll just come up in the order that I introduced them and speak to you.
Well, I really wasn't prepared to speak today, but my name's Luke Brahmi, and I'm one, but I never give up the opportunity. Anyway, my name is Luke Brahmi. I'm one of the principals of Gelberg Signs, and we've been in D.C. since 1941. We've been actively involved in every workforce development program you could ever imagine for at least the last 10 years that I've been kind of focused on this. And this is the first time that, forget about what we're doing, but the communication levels between DOES, the city council, and the mayor with business has ever been like this. I mean, I've been running my business since 1989, not since 1941, and it's never been like this before. So I'd like to applaud the mayor and everybody on a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bill Dean. I'm with MC Dean. I first whoever did the seating, I want to thank you for putting the electrical people and the doctors on one side and the concrete and the politicians. No, I got to tell you, I have been involved in DC workforce development issues for at least a decade personally, and the company for many decades. And I actually served as the chair of the Workforce Investment Council. I'm presently about to become chair of the Apprenticeship Council. And I have seen a lot of speeches, and I know Chairman Brown has invested, because I've worked with you for a long time, has invested a deep amount of his career to actually understanding these issues from an employer's perspective, and of course from a constituent perspective. And I thank him for this, and also of course the mayor. I know Lisa Mallory. A very important part of this is chair of DOES, but the mayor, I've never seen a mayor put this level of effort and this level of commitment into these types of initiatives. I mean, he even shows up at graduation for the apprenticeship voc ed program. So we really appreciate it, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. That's you. That's you. Oh, that's right. In this corner.
That's right.
He's a closer.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. My name is Loretta Caldwell. I'm president of LS Caldwell and Associates, and I am so very pleased to be here, myself and my partner, Jean Harvey, to support and applaud our mayor in putting forth an employment program that not only benefits the major corporations, but the small businesses, too. LS Caldwell and Associates is a small firm, CBE certified, I might add. I know Luke is as well. That is responsible for developing and implementing contracting and employment compliance programs around the city and around the region. As such, firsthand for over 22 years, we have the ability to see, to help to create, but to see the issues that are involved with employing individuals who have various levels of skills training, either the unemployed, the unemployable, and the underemployed. And this is a type of program that gives courage and strength to not only major corporations but small businesses to hire individuals and train them. We're personally looking for professional services for compliance managers, being in a cottage industry that doesn't have a lot of individuals who have the tag of being compliance officers, and we're ready to train them. But our training program takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months. And to train individuals on the cost of a small business, less than 20 employees for us, there is indeed a cost to that. But when you have an administration, a mayor who reaches out to a small business and says, let us help create jobs for you and jobs within another industry, it is a partnership between small business, major corporations, and District of Columbia residents. So it's about DC hires and to hire DC residents. And we see that on not just a personal level, but the job that we do in being compliance officers for major projects such as the mayor mentioned, DC Water, who is a multi-billion-dollar project going on. So that means hundreds and hundreds of jobs at different levels. It also means for DC Sustainable Energy Utility, where we in fact are also a compliance officer, energy conservation jobs that are new cottage industry as well to the District of Columbia. So on behalf of wonderful clients like DC Water, where you have Gus Bass as Spearhead and George Hawkins, and you have Ted Trabue at DCSEU and other people at Shops at Dakota Cross, and those kind of clients and projects that are looking for tools like OJT, and you have a mayor that allows you to use them, I applaud you, Mayor Gray, and you, Lisa Mallory, and also the District of Columbia. Let's get some more jobs here. Hire DC. Thank you.
Well, good morning. It is indeed my pleasure to be here on behalf of the Electrical Workers Union. My name is Larry Greenhill, Sr., and I bring you greetings from our business manager, Chuck Graham, and over 8,000 members of the Electrical Workers Union. I'm in a unique position this morning. I'm speaking for not only the union side, but also our some 200 contractors who hire D.C. residents and others in the area who qualify to become electricians. Let me just say that I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we've had a long-standing relationship with the city. I'm proud to say that. I don't want to date myself, but I go back to 1979, and I'm looking at some faces in the room where we've always worked with the Department of Employment Services to make sure that young people in the city get an opportunity to get into our apprenticeship programs. And I believe the mayor may have mentioned earlier, it is no cost to the city, none at all. And so these young men and women go on to become electricians. They're put through rigorous training on the job, as well as hundreds of hours of classroom-related theory. And guess what? They're making it. They're becoming taxpayers where they can become contributors back to society. And we are thankful that we have an opportunity to partner with the Department of Employment Services as well as with the city. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all of the others. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today to represent 7-Eleven. My name is Janis Barnes. And yes, the mayor has already said everything that I need to say. It really is a pleasure to be able to be a retailer that has no problems with interviewing and be able to hire people and know that your stores will be staffed. We are excited in 7-Eleven that in this year we have another 6 to 8 stores that we will be opening here in the District of Columbia, and I'm really excited about that. I actually have interviews set up for this Friday for another store that that's going to be opening real soon. So again, I thank the mayor, Ms. Mallory, and Chairman Brown for the opportunity to be here today, and look forward to continuing this great partnership that we've started. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank all of those who spoke this morning and for working with us to make this a success. We are as committed as we can possibly be in getting people to work or back to work. Again, I think you'll see next week with the new data that we hopefully are continuing to go in the right direction. And it isn't as if we have emphasized creating new jobs. What we tried to do is have the city be a bridge between those who need a job and those who have a job to fill with creative and assertive efforts along the way, and that is with the recruitment, the screening, the on-the-job training, the wage reimbursements, and other things that will get the attention of the employer community, and then working hard to make sure that we have candidates that people feel good about, candidates who then are successful in those jobs. So we will continue to do that, and we will continue to work as hard as we can to bring down the unemployment level here in the District of Columbia. Again, I want to thank everybody that's up here. I want to thank Councilmember Michael Brown, who has really worked very closely with us to be able to make this happen. We worked very closely on the new workforce intermediary legislation, something I know is near and dear to him. And of course to Lisa Mallory for the really extraordinary work that she has provided here at DOES over the last year, and we're going to continue to do that. Our goal is to become the best employment services agency in the nation, and to have an exemplary workforce development system here in the city. A piece that's not here today, and of course we will continue to talk about, is our own education system. Manifest, of course, in the D.C. public school system as we prepare young people for jobs. Manifest through our charter schools, which increasingly is focusing on workforce development. And of course our community college, which is now in 3 or 4 different campuses, and a principal part of what they do is focusing on preparing people for jobs in the District of Columbia. Actually, I think every endeavor is training for jobs. Even when you go to, if you're getting a PhD, at the end of that journey, presumably you're looking for a job. So we try to focus in that way, and we'll continue to do that. So why don't we open it up for questions at this stage for any of the folks who are up here, or for myself. Tom?
How many participants do you expect to help, even if it's a range of those variables? And also, can you explain the training period? Could be anywhere from a few weeks up to 6 months, or is it almost always going to be 6 months?
Well, we expect, depending on the wages, we expect to be able to serve 300 to 400 individuals. And in terms of the training, it really depends. I mean, so it depends on what kind of specialized training the employer has in place. Some of them will be an intense training through a period of time, and it can be a couple of months. Others will be learning on the job, so 6 months will suffice. I mean, it really varies, and so we're working with the employers to figure that out.
Bruce?
Mr. Mayor, looking at the employers that are out there, it comes to mind that these are the same people we see when it comes to the summer jobs and responding to a lot of things that various administrations try to initiate. What is the potential pool, though? How many employers are missing? How many other employers could benefit from this program and could help the city out?
Well, theoretically, all. And if you go back to the pool that we now have assembled for the One City, One Hire program, we now have 513 employers who are working with us through the One City, One Hire program. And I don't know how many of them have hired people. Again, we have 2,100 people who've been hired. Do you know how many have actually employed people of that 513?
We know that about 460 have actually hired individuals out of the 500 plus that have partnered with us. There are over 34,000 employers in the region, so we have a long way to go. But please bear in mind, we have not announced that. Today we're announcing the program. These are individuals that have stepped up to the plate since like yesterday. So, we're going to get on the phone now, and we hope that through this venue we will get some more interest, and people will call us and come to onecityoneHire.org or call us to actually express interest in the program. So we're announcing the program today. We're just starting. And we hope to go out to many of the employers, particularly small employers, that we haven't been able to reach successfully in the past.
What does that mean?
Well, because what we had in place with the federal program, it was requiring a little bit more time and effort than a small business could put in place. So we recognized that, and we put in place some efficiencies, particularly around the contracting piece, and actually allowing us to reimburse the employer for the wages as opposed to waiting for the 6-month period of time to provide the wage reimbursement as the employee starts working. That's a big burden for some of our small businesses.
Just add one thing to that, Bruce, also, and that is, I think there are a lot of employers who were suspect of the district government in the past, and we're trying to bring people to a different view of how we operate, and that is, you can trust us to recruit people, you can trust us to screen people, you can trust us to do the reimbursements in a timely fashion in an appropriate way. We tried to demonstrate that, and I think we did with the Summer Youth Employment Program last year, which I really believe was an absolute sterling success. 14,000 kids who were employed. When we talk about building and rebuilding a workforce development system, and the heart of it being the Department of Employment Services, I think we've got to be able to imbue the employer community with that kind of confidence. Otherwise, they won't want to use us at all. So in the course of getting people to work, we hope they are, increasing their confidence in the District of Columbia government. Tom?
Mr. Mayor, it's good that any business steps forward, but of the businesses represented up there, don't all of them have some already existing working relationship with the district government? I don't know if 7-Eleven does, but...
Yeah, I think one of the things we wanted were people today who could speak to what they've done. I think that sends a message to the community that we've worked with the district government, especially on the One City, One Hire program, and we believe that we've had a successful experience and we want to continue to work with you. In their own way, I think that's essentially what they said, and we hope that others in the employer community will hear that and say, well, let me give it a try. Patrick.
Mr. Mayor, do you consider this program and also the One City, One Hire program to be a long-term solution to addressing the district's unemployment problem, or is this something that essentially runs out when the grant runs out?
Well, I don't think it is the really long-term solution. I think the long-term solution is having a workforce development system where the investments that we're making in people are consonant with the way the economy is growing. We focused a lot on technology and attracting technology firms to the city, trying to get help to the startups. But in the course of doing that, we've got to be able to, we've got to make our own training efforts, like with the community college, in our own schools, compatible with those opportunities. For example, we now have the first STEM campus, the first science, technology, engineering, and math campus in the city. That is Langley, which is a pre-K through 8 school next door to McKinley Tech, which is 9 through 12. It's the first time we've had a STEM campus. We opened that in September. With the new Woodson High School, which opened in August, is now a STEM school. So a lot of what we will be doing for the long term is making sure that what we do for work preparation is consistent with what we're trying to do to move the economy forward. One of the things, for example, that we are talking about that you will see unfold is when we develop the Macmillan site, we are looking at putting training programs there that will be associated with or deeply involved with healthcare, because you got a huge number of healthcare institutions. You got the Veterans Hospital, you got Washington Hospital Center, you got Children's Hospital Center, and literally thousands of jobs there. We would like to have training programs right there that the healthcare providers will feel comfortable with, that will be a feeder system for jobs for them. So, you know, that's a long-winded answer, but that's how I view the long term, and that is having compatibility between where the economy is going and where we are going to prepare people for the emerging jobs. James.
Mr. Mayor, you know what some of the employers have told me private. In hiring DC residents, they lack the soft skills and other type of skills to be employable. Does this program have any component to deal with that?
Yeah, I'll have Lisa talk about that. But also, it's a great question too, because oftentimes that is what results in people being dismissed. I find, you know, based on especially my past, that employers who have people who will show up every day, show up on time, and get along with other people, they will go a long ways in terms of whatever deficiencies people may have in their technical skills. So the answer is yes. That's embedded, you know, throughout what we're doing. It's also a huge and an inherent part now of our summer youth employment program, where we're making it clear to these young people that they are expected to come every day, come on time, and to get along with people, because even people with the best technical skills wind up getting fired because they really just don't fit in to the workplace.
Right. And one of the things that we've put in place, and we actually just started to design the program yesterday, is we want to have a work readiness component for all of our unemployed population. So we're thinking about trying to figure out what that training would look like, and we're working with the Community College of the District of Columbia to put that in place. This program will actually have job coaches, like we have with the Transitional Employment Program, also project known as Project Empowerment. That will be an individual that is available to the employee to help them through some of those challenges. We will then go back retroactively and ask them to engage in that program, and it's, you know, a voluntary program for them to come back and participate in it. But we're going to put in place a program in short order. That was my announcement in the next couple of months, but I can make it now, much to the chagrin of the staff that are like, oh, she was serious. But we want to have a serious work readiness and assessment component that we're putting in place that will be required of all of our participants and our UI beneficiaries, those receiving unemployment insurance.
Tom?
No, I'm sorry, I was being subject. Okay, who else here? Okay.
Any other questions on this issue?
Could I get an off-topic question from Mr. Graham on these? I'm sure that we might want a good question.
Wow. I didn't know you become the spokesperson for PEPCO, Mark.
Remember, the mayor's leaving at 11:30. So.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Can I go with him?
Could I ask you just about the 911 outage the other day? The District of Columbia, the city has put out statements indicating they believe PEPCO was somehow responsible. What can you tell us about how that happened, how it will be prevented from happening in the future?
I can tell you that there was a surge and there was outage for approximately 23 minutes. And you know, we are looking at ways, working with the city now, working on ways where we can improve the redundancy of that system. But we're looking at all options right now.
pinpoint exactly what happened? I mean, you say avoiding redundancies. That's kind of
there was some work being conducted, and as a result of that work, it did cause some surges, and there was outage again of about 23 minutes. But we're looking at ways now that we could continue to improve the reliability with respect to that service, because we recognize it's an important service for the city.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, can I follow up on the question that
No, this happened the last time I was with you.
I think my
Yes.
question really goes to the mayor, but I'd like
Sure.
you, Mr. Graham, to be there. Mr. Mayor, you have nominated Betty Noel, a strong consumer advocate, to be on the Public Service Commission. Mr. Graham and PEPCO have adamantly said no way and have strongly lobbied the council to not even have a vote in the committee. Can you tell consumers, what is your position on Betty Noel's nomination? You clearly have not. There is questions as to whether or not you have asked your close colleague, Yvette Alexander, even to have a vote in the committee on her nomination. How strongly are you committed to Betty Noel's nomination?
I'm completely committed. I'm not going to put somebody's nomination out there and not support it. And I had a discussion with Councilmember Alexander as recently as yesterday about this. So I hardly support it. I believe that we should have a vote on it, and I hope that we do have a vote on it. I invite my dear friend here to support her. You're not even a member of the committee, are you? But the day may come. In any event, I believe that she is eminently deserving of being a member of the Public Service Commission. Otherwise, I would not have nominated her, and I support her nomination today as strongly as I did when it was put forth. Okay. Did you want Mr. Graham to respond to that? No. Oh.
This is not going to cut into our time.
No, they're going to leave
Really?
quickly. And
Yeah,
then
good.
Mark them out.
All right. Tom.
Two quick things on the Thompson matter. When's the last time you had contact with Mr. Thompson, Jeffrey Thompson, and what's your opinion of the legislative efforts to ban corporate donations?
Well, I don't even remember. It's been months since I talked to Mr. Thompson. I think it's probably been a couple of months. Excuse me. It was in a social event. As far as the legislation is concerned, I haven't read it. It was introduced yesterday, and I want to read it thoroughly. I want to get the opinions of people who work with me, and then we'll have a position on it.
The effort to ban corporate donations, you don't have a stance on it?
Well, I want to read the entire legislation, because what will happen, as you well know, is it'll be represented as my position on the bill. So I want to see what else is in there. Mr. Sherwood.
Mr. Mayor, still on Mr. Thompson. As you know, the allegation is suggesting that he raised a lot of money for you. I'd like to ask you, what was it was a hectic campaign. I'll say that so you don't have to. What was your role, your personal role? What role did you play in asking people for money and actually bringing in money? Did you ever bring in cash and money orders yourself?
No.
I mean, how much of this was your role in terms of getting money to come into your campaign from you?
Well, certainly there were instances where I asked people to support my campaign, and I asked Mr. Thompson to support my campaign. I never had any money orders. I never had any cash. Those things that I actually directly brought in, they were checks. And there were other people who I asked to support my campaign. I think any candidate in a situation like this would tell you that one of their jobs is to try to get people to support the campaign, and I did that to the extent that I could.
And if I could just, my follow-up and last question. At the transition, Reuben Charles was praised, and after the campaign was praised for all the money he raised. It was people were praising publicly, and now he's disappeared. What was his role, and why did he disappear? I don't know. He disappeared.
I don't know that he disappeared, John.
I mean, well, you've spoken to him.
I have not spoken to him in the recent past. Yeah, he was good. He was on the finance committee. I don't know specifically how much he was responsible for raising, but he was quite good at raising money.
Thank you.
Ms. Brazil?
Excuse me, can I follow up on Tom's question? You say that with regard to your campaign, and I'll expand it to include your transition, you only brought in checks. But are you aware of, and were you aware at the time, of activities at your 6th Street headquarters that involved cash coming into the headquarters, cash being converted into money orders, and was that brought to your attention?
No.
Or were you aware of it?
No, I was not. Those are issues that have been raised, of course, in the aftermath of the campaign.
When I saw Tom's report last night on the news, it seemed to me that you were talking about the integrity in your campaign and what have you. If you are firmly a believer in integrity was a hallmark of your campaign, are you willing to issue a clarion call to anyone who worked in your campaign, your transition, if in fact they saw anything or aware of anything that was wrong, that they contact authorities?
I assume that they know that they can do that anytime they wish, Ms. Brazil. We all know that there's an ongoing investigation with this, and you know, if people are asked or wish to stand up and contribute information to that, they perfectly are welcome to. James.
On March the 23rd, we're going to transmit your budget to the council as well as to the general public. I realize you and your budget team are working on that, but could you just give us a sense of what we're looking at in terms of March the 23rd, in terms of, you know, I mean, what is it going to be like, or just a sense right now?
Well, there'll be a stack of books about that. I know we're still working on it, as you well know, James. You've been around for a while. These budgets go right up to the 11th hour in terms of decision making. I can't even count the number of hours I've spent, the city administrator has spent, the deputy mayors have spent, our budget staff have spent working on this. I think it is quite obvious, though, that we're facing a very challenging budget situation. One of the things that we have done that we didn't have time to do is we have really gone across the city, and we continue to meet with everybody we can to say, here is the scenario that we are facing. The current services funding level budget, which is a fancy term for if we were going to take the same services that we're providing this year and continue all of those services next year, how much more will they cost? That is an incremental increase of $207 million. Going into the revenue estimates that we got last week, we were expecting $57 million additional dollars in revenue. So that left a deficit at the time, a projected deficit of $150 million. We got the information from Dr. Gandhi last week that we could expect $35 million more in fiscal year 13, and I'm sure many of you saw my letter in response to that. But assuming that doesn't change, that then leaves us with a deficit of $115 million, the gap that we're trying to close. We cut $187 million from the 12 budget. We had $135 million in revenue enhancements. That's how we balanced the fiscal year 12 budget. I don't know of any revenue enhancements that we're proposing. We haven't finished the budget yet, so I don't want to say, you know, absolutely on anything at this point. But assuming that we have to close the gap strictly on the expenditure side, that means we've got to find $115 million of budget reductions. Mark and then Alan.
You said you weren't aware that cash was being converted into money orders during
No, I
the
wasn't.
campaign.
No.
Does that upset you? What do you think about that? I mean,
You know, there's an ongoing investigation, Mark, and I want to let the investigation play out. I think, you know, the bottom line is the rules should have been followed in all instances.
but does it raise concerns personally for you that this was going on? And I mean, there has been people talking off the record saying that there's now concern in your inner circle that, well, personally may not have done anything wrong. People close to you may have crossed the line. Do you share that concern now?
Well, again, I want the investigation to continue and play out. But in any instances where there may have been, where the rules may not have been followed, or allegations that they may not have been followed, absolutely they concern me.
Last two quick questions. On Dr. Gandhi, your letter that you sent back to are you satisfied with his performance at this point?
Well, I think if you look at Dr. Gandhi's performance over a period of, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, I think he really has done an exceptional job as a CFO. I think, you know, you could go to various and sundry situations like you could do with any one of us and point out things that we wish were different. But if you look at the city's financial performance, we are far and away at a different place than we were back in the mid to late 90s when at its worst we hit a $518 million deficit in our fund balance. What I'm particularly excited about, frankly, is that with this last audit, it demonstrated that we had what is tantamount to a $400 million turnaround. That was, we did not spend what was anticipated, what was budgeted out of the fund balance. We covered that with cuts in the budget and with additional revenue, and then we had a $240 million surplus. I've always had a good working relationship with Dr. Gandhi, and I look forward, you know, we will work through this budget period in particular, I think, with the same kind of constructive relationship that we've had in the past. Wait a minute, Tom. He had another question.
And on the ethics working, I know you announced that you're taking applications. Have you set a deadline for next Wednesday? Well, maybe once you meet that deadline?
Hope so.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think you can go without commenting on Chief Ellerby, the story that Times, I think, today. There's some allegation he's a sexual harasser and had a case in Sarasota. Have you looked at it? What's your thoughts?
I don't know. I have not seen the story, Tom. I do know this. I think Chief Ellerby has done an exceptional job as the fire chief. I'm very, very pleased with his performance. I heartily support his leadership in the fire department. I know that the proposal that he advanced around the 333, if everybody knows what that means, around the shift changes, has certainly generated some controversy. But frankly, whenever you do anything that is markedly different than what is, there's going to be controversy associated with it. He knows the fire and EMS system as well as anybody in the District of Columbia. He's a native Washingtonian. He's a dedicated public servant. He's great to work with, and I'm really pleased that he agreed to come and do this to head up the FMES department for us in the city.
I'm sorry. You'll look at whatever that Sarasota thing is. There's no allegation of wrongdoing here, I believe.
Yeah, I will look at it. Absolutely. Thank you all.